Welcome back to the Billboard Pop Shop Podcast, 5 Seconds of Summer.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good to see you.
We saw you at the 100th
The 100th episode?
episode thing, right?
It's amazing that you remember that.
Yeah.
It's like you weren't even prompted or anything.
And this is the 5-year anniversary of the show?
Wow.
Yeah.
It says on my calendar, yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
wow.
These avid listeners of the podcast,
You
clearly.
Big fans.
I do like a podcast.
All four of you are here today. Michael, Ashton, Callum, Luke.
Yes.
Tell us first where we're at, because we're in a very special, cool building.
Yep, we're at Starbucks on
I don't know how cool that is.
Sunset and Vine.
We are at the Capitol building
The
today.
Capitol Records building.
Yes, we are.
The
To
label.
be confused with the Capitol building in Washington, D.C.
True. Well, that could be like
We could
the
do something
podcast
out of
on
there, maybe.
location.
And we
We're in a
can see the Hollywood sign, so everything is weird. Nice and weird today. It's going to be great.
But this is your label home, and it was almost 5 years ago that you signed to Capitol, I think. Wasn't it like November 2003?
November, yep.
Yeah.
We were
could be
wee
November
boys
6th, actually.
back then. Just wee young
Mere
boys.
lads. Mere boys.
That was
And
a
now you're
fantastic
old
time.
men. Not
Old
really.
men?
No,
Oh, no.
not really.
Well, maybe.
Almost mid-20s-ish?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
I think we'll keep it a mystery now. You
Okay.
hit 23 in our situation.
We're
You
not
just
here
shut
to
up
talk.
about it.
Unfortunately, we're not here to talk about your ages, but that would be a hooch to talk about random things that are not related to anything.
Let's do that.
Yeah, no.
Hey, follow the leader.
Okay, great.
That sounds like what we do all the time. Is just talk about things that.
Then I will help you focus
any
because
relevance.
you're too good at getting me off track here. Well, you're riding high on our charts right now, as you hopefully know. Youngblood, the title track off your latest album, recently became your first top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and your first #1 on Billboard's Pop Songs Airplay chart, which is ranking the most popular songs on Top 40 radio in the United States. So first, congratulations.
Thank you.
First off, how did you find out about being #1? I'm hoping it was a big deal. I think I saw it on your Instagram. I know management was thrilled about being #1. How did it feel?
It felt fantastic. I mean, we've worked very, very hard to, create a record that could come across as genuine, musically and lyrically, whilst also kind of putting us in a good place for our live performances. And a song like Youngblood has articulated all those things, and it's taken us a lot of years to make something like that, and to make a record that is slightly more mature than our past records. But we found out we were playing a show in Seattle. And it was fantastic. Came off stage. There was some celebration happening. But yeah, it was a really long.
The celebration had started before you got off stage? Is that what you're saying?
Kind of where we got off the stage. Yeah,
It was a few. It was like a cake and champagne and stuff. It was nice.
Yeah.
Falafel.
But at that point, we
Was
were
there really falafel?
There was falafel.
Oh, okay. I don't believe you. No?
You're a liar.
There's a falafel cake?
No, just falafels.
Just falafels?
Yeah, the after show food got mixed in with the cake. It's not important.
Got it. Okay. But you were saying. I apologize.
I was just saying it was fantastic, a great feeling. But it was for the whole team. It was a many years of trying to get a song in the top 10 at radio and.
Which is weird, and not to interrupt you, but I thought it was weird because you had hits previously, and radio did play you previously in America, and you had some hits, but this was not only the first #1, but the first top 10.
Yeah.
It was like the one song that finally kind of made everything happen.
Yeah.
And when you guys finished recording the track, and I know I had read a previous interview that you did with Billboard where you had said that you felt like the album had kind of like turned a corner when you had finished Youngblood and another track from the
Lie to
album.
me.
And what was it about Youngblood, the song, where you're like, aha, this is it?
I feel like on especially this last album, we were searching for that staple sound and a collection of influence and individuality that created an identity for this band, and I feel like that's what Youngblood essentially did for us.
I mean, the track, when I first heard it, I'm like, well, this is a hit. Like, this is obviously a hit record. But at the same time...
Why?
Because it sounded... I thought it sounded just really cool. And the fact that each chorus builds a little bit more, where the first chorus, it's punchy, but then the second chorus, there's more, like, I think there's more of a... like guitar that's added on, and then by the third chorus there's like more percussion that's added on, and it turns into this song that starts off kind of you think it's going to be a ballad for a hot second,
Yeah.
and then by the end of it, it's just like hitting you over the head, and then it's like a cold ending, and you're like, okay, so how do you feel about that?
So like those movements on purpose in that they're on purpose in that song because it's kind of we're paying more attention to the attention span of people these days, and how they listen to music and how they flick over songs as fast as anything else, So we were trying to use the element of surprise with a chorus like that, but also evoking a lot of emotion. I don't think people had heard Luke's vocal recorded like that before.
No.
And it was different. It was a different approach to how we were singing. And also the dynamic progression of the instrumentation in that song was on purpose as well because we're easing people into using live drums and guitars.
Yeah, the live drums come in the second half of the second chorus.
Because there's always been, and also there's new instrumentation in the band. Like Callum plays keys now, and so does Luke. And we're just trying to ease people into what we're doing now musically as well. So I guess there's a lot of reasons why the song turned out the way it did, and what you're speaking about.
It sounded contemporary, but it also sounded a little bit retro at the same time to me. Like it evoked, to me, for some reason, I was thinking like, oh, is this like a Joe Jackson, Jackson Brown? Like it sounded like a little bit like cool '80s new wavy rock.
Yeah.
But it didn't sound like that either, and it just sounded old but new and contemporary and fresh, but still evoking the past. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was what I thought.
I think you're spot on, and it was about taking those, like Ashton was saying, taking those older influences, whether they're like new wavy like that, and adding it into a pop environment. Obviously, we're pop songwriters, and lyrically having emotion in it, and also fitting in to what really is, it feels like to us, a hip hop kind of world. So those subs and the 808s and stuff, and the bass line is, it's a trying to fit us into that world. It was difficult.
No, but it definitely, there was definitely a hip hop reference tossed around when we were writing the song.
Yeah, with the tempo.
Yeah, and it makes it so it's not so alien when it's being played against
a Post Malone track or something?
Other urban records on radio.
We came up with the Andy Summers style riff over the top of a hip hop track. I forget which one it was because we were referencing the tempo and the groove of it for the verses. But yeah, those are just things we were thinking about whilst writing that song.
It's just a great song. That's just a great song. Clearly, I mean, as we speak right now, and by the time people hear this, I mean, I don't know, but right now it is still the most played song on Top 40 Radio for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it's amazing,
which is nuts.
Yeah, it doesn't really sink in, does it? I think it'll take a minute.
First #1 since from an Australian act since 1997.
It's Savage Garden.
Savage Garden.
Yeah, Australia band.
Yeah, don't forget Sia. She's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
as a band.
I'm sure she's
but she's an alien.
She's not really a human.
She's crazy.
Yeah, she's just like.
Do you remember Savage Garden?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Darren Hayes, and I forget the other gentleman's name.
Me too.
Yes.
Oh, sure. I know Darren though.
You're besties with Darren?
No, well, we met Darren when we were young.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Brian McFadden from Westlife.
Wow, that's a motley crew of folks.
Yeah, we were in Sydney, so
Really?
anything can happen down there.
You were just fanboying out.
No, we went in to play
We
them
could
a
totally
song.
sell.
We went in to play them a song, and they said we weren't ready, and they were right.
Was
No.
Darren there?
Yeah, he was there. He was producing. He was sitting there with Brian.
I don't think Darren was there, man.
I swear that was Darren.
Definitely remember Brian.
Darren was there.
Maybe it's a different Darren.
Anyways.
Darren.
You guys can work this out later. I want to ask you a question about just the sort of the making of the song. I know we talked about it a little bit, and you already name-checked the other songwriters. 3 out of the 4 of you co-wrote the song, and then you worked on it with Ali and Watt and Louis Bell, correct? Did you guys have like the lyrics and kind of like the basic structure of it before you hooked up with them, or was it like a songwriting session sort of thing?
It was a session, but it was also an accumulation of years of talking about making a record with Andrew and just being in bars and things and talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And finally,
Let's just make it happen.
we get in the room.
You say it all the time. Every time you'd see him out. We're going to make a hit song together.
Yep. And finally, we got there and Andrew was late. And I picked up the guitar, and I said, "Well, Andrew would play something like this," and Ali was like, "Yeah, he would," because he has a little formula thing that he does. And then we started writing the verse, and then it all fell into place.
Louis Bell, who produced the track with Watt, has written a bunch of hits with Post Malone and produced Post Malone, including Better Now and Rockstar.
Yeah.
And I call me weird, but I wouldn't immediately connect Five Sauce to Post Malone. How did he end up working with you guys? Because I think this is the only track that he produced on the record.
True. Yeah. We look forward to doing more too. I think that was a brilliant collaboration, but it was actually interesting because we took the demo we made and we gave it to Louis Bell, and he
Louis, I apologize.
That's okay. And he
might be listening. I apologize, Louis.
And he took it, and what he essentially did was he looked at a band like ours, a 4-piece kind of rock band, and he modernized it in a way that we wouldn't have thought to. He took all the dynamic in the song, and he focused in on the organic elements of the song, and he turned it into something that kind of has opened 1,000 doors for us, which is fantastic. And that's what every great producer should do. You know, it's a fantastic thing he did.
Who introduced you to him? Was that a Watt
I think
thing?
it was probably Andrew Watt.
Yeah.
Because I remember we finished it, and it sounded similar to what it did now. And I listened to the demo the other day, but it didn't have that as much as a punch in that bass in the chorus and that kind of surprise in the way the 808 builds through the pre-chorus. Like, he definitely added his touch on it, and it's I mean, he's awesome.
Is the song hard to sing, like live?
Yes.
Well, because when I hear it, because each line goes up. And I'm like, is this tough to actually reproduce live just with 4 people and your vocals?
We used to sing it in the original key for a long time, and we added a double chorus for live now, like a double chorus at the end, so it actually does the full. It's already a double chorus, so one and a half. So we took it down half a step, and it's a little easier, but it's still not.
It's up there.
Yeah,
the hardest part for me is going to the that part from the rest of the song.
Definitely.
I bet it's tough.
There's a reason why it's the last song of the show, probably. I mean, well, also because it's a huge hit record, so
that's mainly why.
It makes for a nice finale. You know, have you seen your audience kind of like evolve at shows because of Youngblood? Because obviously your core fan base, like probably before this album, was mostly sort of younger women, and I would think with this, because of the exposure at Top 40 Radio, maybe there's like more dudes showing up and like older folks.
Well, we've actually focused more so. It started when we released Want You Back, and we actually, as a team, we came into this wanting to evolve the way the whole band feels. Like everything we release, from merchandise to every bit of artwork, every photo that we take, it all needs to be creating a foundation for a new culture around this band. In the past, we've focused on a more punk rock foundation for our visuals and energy to, like, feeding off that energy to create a tight fan base. And, with everything that we wear, and back in the day, our fans would imitate us, and, everything we released, they would imitate it. And, we wanted to recreate that world, but in a more mature way, and also a way that excites us artistically. So we started with all the visuals, and then kind of Youngblood and everything followed.
So now you're seeing a lot of guys in the audience in full leather outfits, like slick back hair. No.
Well, sometimes what I'm seeing now is more diverse audience, but an audience, there's 3 types of people. You got your diehard fans, you got the people that have come because of they've heard Youngblood and they're curious to what type of band would be behind a song like that, and then you have this new audience of people that we're still working out, and they're just enjoying what we're releasing, and they're enjoying how everything looks and feels and sounds, and they're so there's a new determination in this band to feed this new audience and create something that we can keep doing for an even longer time, and keep upping the bar, and keep kind of confusing people that Five Sauce are still kicking us. And
no one said you weren't.
Well, for a second.
I didn't say it.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Well, all right. Well, we're not going to get into that. Let's be celebratory here. Were you about to say something? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I was going to say that he's right, and we're trying to figure out how to not deal with deal with our original fan base and our a very cult and diehard, and trying to mix that in with people that like the new stuff, because there's old songs that fans want us to play that only they would know, that are on like a B-side kind of thing, and we need to. It's been interesting crafting a show that encompasses everyone, and someone that's just heard Youngblood, what are they going to want to hear? Do they want to hear It's
That's
been
tough.
fun, but it's you see some people in the crowd when we play an old song, they're like, what is?
It's a great dilemma to have.
Yeah,
you know.
no, definitely. I mean, a lot of bands or artists on their third album would play Youngblood if it didn't do as well, and people would be like, oh, we'll just play, She Looks So Perfect or something.
I want to move on to the next single, even though you're still number one. I want to move on to the next single, Valentine. Correct.
Yeah.
Billboard wrote a story recently saying, I want to get the quote correct. It was, quote, the band's first song you could call sexy with a straight face.
I remember reading that.
You did?
Yes, and that was the quote
Michael
that
looked at
stuck
himself
out
in
to
the
me
mirror
as
after.
well. I was like,
Are we sexy?
That's
Are
a
we
backhanded
sexy?
compliment.
sexy. I know.
I'm like, I thought Youngblood sounded kind of sexy, but
Me too.
okay. I mean,
No, I think Valentine for us is like one of the most interesting pieces of music we've ever released, and I'd say it's not something you would have ever expected from us. It's probably one of my favorite 5 Seconds of Summer songs.
Yeah.
It's just so different. It ticks so many boxes in different ways, and especially in the world we're living in right now, where urban records are so popular, it fits in this like little pocket that's like not quite urban, but was produced by one of the most prestigious hip hop producers of all time. So it's like, for me, it fits in such an interesting place, and I think it's like the perfect way to follow
and
Youngblood, in my opinion.
It's weirdly spooky.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if that's the right word. But it
Yeah.
has like this weird moody vibe to it.
Yeah.
And then of course the skeletons in the video kind
But
of
then
have
the
a whole
lyrics are so positive and uplifting.
I mean,
you know?
when I heard it the first few times, I'm like, am I missing something here? So I went and looked at the lyrics. I'm like, no, it seems like a love song. I was like, is there something cryptic that I
It's
missed in
the-
the lyrics?
I
Are
think
you
it's-
really trying to eat someone's heart? Is that the metaphor?
Yeah,
No,
I think it's the ebo that makes it sound so sad.
that's the weird sounding.
It's a very
Oh, yeah.
sad guitar thing in there. But also, it does sound sad, and that was kind of us seeking inspiration off like the Chris Isaacs of the world and things like that, and trying to make a happy song sound. Well, it does sound sad quarterly, but lyrically, it's pretty fucking goofy. That song,
I think that
Yeah.
makes it even like. I think that makes it harder to comprehend because the lyrics are so romanticized, but the song itself is a very minor-based song.
Yeah.
I know we have to wrap up in a little
right.
bit. But, okay, great. Then I'll just hang out with you for the next half hour. No, it's okay. Don't worry. There's a whole group of people sitting next to us, like, looking at me like they want me to shoot out the room. No, you don't, really. The tour just wrapped in America, the North American tour, last Friday. Well, last Friday.
We're going to Glasgow on Friday.
No stopping.
Going to Glasgow. We're going to London.
Going to Glasgow.
I'm going to Glasgow.
Yep.
There may only be 3 of you the next time they see you on TV. Because the tour then starts up in October, November, and then I think that's the end for
Yes,
now.
I think so too.
Is there a chance that maybe you'll add further dates?
We're doing some stuff in Oz. We can't say that. Can we say that? We're going back down under for the Australian Music Awards. So I know we're doing that. We're doing a few one-off
you're
shows.
kind of popular right now with the #1 song in America. Maybe you should come back for some more shows. Just saying.
Yeah,
We would like to. Go ahead, man.
We would like to. This is actually our second world tour
This
We're
year,
on our
yeah.
second world tour this year.
So we've been in the toaster for a minute.
I thought it started in Australia and Japan and then came to America.
We did the
right?
5+3 tour at the start of the year,
Did
which was
another
kind
tour
of
as well. We were trying to break the band again.
We had to break the band again at the start of the year.
Sure.
So we did that, and then we did another tour. So another tour after this. Sure, why not?
I think we.
Why not?
No.
While we're at it.
I'd like to get back in the studio, honestly. I would
Yeah.
like, because I think we.
So we don't know about any more dates at this point.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
great.
Not me personally. I'm sure there is somewhere, but
Yeah, Callum gets the dates.
Management? Is there management in the room? Anyone would like no? Okay, they're shaking their heads.
yeah, I would just like to continue on writing now for a second.
Do you guys ride on the road at all?
I'm really struggling. Well, we've struggled.
It's difficult to write on the road for us, and I think it's almost frustrating. Although the album is finished and we're very proud of it, and the song's doing well, the album did great, but it's almost frustrating to be taken out of that world where you're making songs like that, and you're kind of plugged in, and once you plug out and you're on the road and you're kind of scrambling to write, and it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah, there is going to be a fantastic influence on the road, though. Maybe not lifestyle-wise, but we have Lovely the Band coming out, and they're actually going to be recording some of their second album on the road as well. So maybe I can
Work with them.
maybe a little bit. I might write a couple songs with Mitchie out on the road or something. But we'll see what happens.
Last thing. Earlier this year, when the Youngblood album dropped, it appeared that you were on track for #1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart, where you'd had two previous #1s. By the way, I manage that particular chart.
Oh, okay.
That is my chart that I manage at
Scary
Billboard.
chart.
Scary chart. Why?
It wasn't that week. You can understand why.
I'm getting to that. But then the Carters, Jay-Z and Beyonce, came along with their surprise album the day after your album came out. So what was going on in the wonderful world of Five Sauce? Were you just like, oh, #1, never mind?
That was literally it, because they didn't announce, because of the way that the weeks work. We dropped ours on, I want to say, June 15th. That was our date.
It would have been a Friday.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it was a Friday, and then the Beyonce and Jay-Z album didn't drop until like Sunday. Or like it was Saturday or Sunday that it dropped. So we had like 2 days of where we were like, oh, we're like the big thing out this record, like this week. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, Jay-Z and Beyonce have finally done an album together. And it was like, we didn't really know what to expect. It was like we could kind of just go into it and like hope that our fans would rally behind us, and
they did.
It was kind of it's nice. I don't know if we're seeing from the outside as this, but I feel like sometimes we feel like an underdog. So I was a little bit happy about it, and I think that people.
You were happy about Jay-Z and Beyonce dropping an album?
Not fully
that was
happy.
awesome, too.
You were happy
But
about
I think
the
it was
results.
cool
Like, as a
that
music fan,
people
that
would
was cool.
people would put out a lot of people would put out an album and be like, all right, we got this. Who's this Australian band? And their album is amazing, obviously, but it was cool to see people doubt us and our fans kind of get behind us and prove that we belong here and we put a lot of work into this. And whether we went #1 or #2 didn't matter. It was a cool moment for us.
It was really important that week.
Yeah.
Because it required us to focus in on our fans and super serving them in every way we could, and showing that here's this album, we've worked on it for a very long time, and you've waited a very long time, and let's not let the world and not let America not hear about this. Let's do it.
It all turned out fine, at least for you guys. And it also turned out fine for Jay and Beyonce, because they said in their lyrics they didn't care about, awards or charts. So it's, it's fine. But you debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. You became the first band to have your first 3 full-length studio albums debut at #1. And you're the only Australian act to have 3 #1 albums in America.
Yeah.
Like, that's more than Olivia Newton-John, more than AC/DC. More than
I was always. I thought,
if you count Bee Gees for Australia, even though they were born in England but they moved to Australia, I know it's weird.
Yeah, we've taken them emotionally. I think AC/DC. I don't know what's going on there.
It's those old classic albums didn't go to like Back in Black didn't go to #1.
That's crazy to me.
But it's
Number
the
5 or something.
second highest selling album of all time.
It's
Right?
#1 in every living Australian's heart.
Yeah, it's #1 in our hearts.
Yeah.
I don't know about us, but yeah.
This has been great. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
appreciate the time.
Thank you.
And have fun in Europe. And
Thank you. We're
come
going
back
to Glasgow
anytime.
on Friday.
Glasgow. At least 3/4 of you are.
I'll be going to London. So.
Can't wait.
Should we do the Billboard singing? Yeah. What?
There's a sing-along?
Billboard.
Yeah, you guys need do you have a jingle?
We don't have a jingle.
Billboard.
You want to make up a jingle for us?
We'll do it for 50 grand.
1, 2, 3, 4. Billboard.
Okay, $50. Fine, $25.
And a grande iced coffee.
I'm checking my
With
wallet.
whipped cream.
What do we got?
Weird. All right. Thanks for having us.
5 sauce.
I got 23. I got 23. No?
Billboard.
Thank you, guys.